I'm back again. Right now I'll be talking about shoulder flexion and overhead pressing variations you might be able to benefit from if you lack the adequate amount of shoulder flexion that you need to go overhead. Because if we talk about a lot of lifters who are overly extended, their shoulder flexion is greatly compromised. And if you notice, a lot of people in the gym, they do standing overhead presses. They're basically doing incline presses done standing up, and they complain about back pain. This contributes to more APT, and it could just get very problematic. Now I understand there's a lot of athletes like strongman competitors, they have logs and they're put into certain positions where they have to lean back because the log is so big. But not everybody is a strongman competitor or an Olympic weightlifter or wants to press certain objects overhead. Some people just want to have very healthy shoulders, they want to have bigger shoulders, they don't want to run into that many problems. And having a good amount of shoulder flexion is going to help you get overhead. But unfortunately, a lot of people only have a certain amount of degree of shoulder flexion until they start leaning back because they don't have enough here, so they have to compensate with other areas lower down the chain. So I'll be showing you guys some regressions all the way to some progressions, along with, more importantly, some drills you could use to start improving your shoulder flexion quite noticeably. So first things first, let's talk about one of my favorites for improving your shoulder flexion. Grab like a medicine ball, it doesn't have to be too heavy. We're gonna get into this position on the ground, knees tucked. Want to get the knees above the hips, so none of this. Flat back. I'm gonna get a nice reach. And keep in mind, I can't stress this enough, when you're doing certain drills that are more like prep work or before an exercise, you can't own a range of motion if you can't breathe through it. These are not the type of drills where you want to be all stressed out and sympathetic. You want to be parasympathetic to drive parasympathetic input, so that way your body's not stressed out and your body doesn't perceive these movements as a threat. That's why the breathing is so key here. And I understand it doesn't wrap around a lot of people's heads, but just hear me out. So relax. Full exhale, nice reach. I get a nice tuck. I want to lift my bum slightly above, so only my belt buckle's on the ground. This is going to keep me out of extension. From here, I'm going to try to make the ball touch the ground, just like this. On this, we want to try to prevent our lower backs from doing this. We don't want a rib cage to flare on this exercise. That's why we want to keep the bum slightly above the ground, only keep the belt on. You should feel your hamstrings. You want to drive your heels towards you without actually moving them. One more time. So that's a great lift right there, or should I say a great prep drill you can start incorporating right now to start improving your shoulder flexion. Now another one I like quite a bit, I'm not going to give you guys too much, but let's say if you're doing an ab wheel, you can make this more bang for your buck in a way where it's going to help you get more shoulder flexion. So you can take that same medicine ball, put it right here, and isometrically I want my hamstrings, or should I say my heels, to drive into the ball. It's going to recruit the hamstrings, and this will keep me in more of a tuck position. So a lot of times you see, for example, people who do the ab wheel and it's just erector city. They have way too many erectors working. It looks like this. We don't want that. We want to stay in that stack position. We want a mobile, we want to stack rib cage over our pelvis. So you grab the ball right here. This is going to prevent you from cheating as much. Right here. It's going to help with that shoulder flexion. So I'm driving my heels into the ball, which are going into my hamstrings. And it looks like this. I'm going to get a reach. Alright. So those two lifts right there, those two prep drills, done with the breathing tempo that I've been telling you guys about, those are going to help you with your shoulder flexion. Now it's not going to happen overnight, but it will definitely help over time as you apply more progressive overload. You start going lower and lower, you are going to improve it. Now as far as the lifts are concerned, let's say you have very poor shoulder flexion, you could barely even get your arms over your head or your hands. you could start with more of a low reach. So for example, if we come in here, something like a landmine press. This is gonna depend on your height, your anthropometry and stuff of that nature. Obviously, somebody who's like 5 feet tall, they're gonna need way more shoulder flexion as opposed to someone who's like 6'6", because then it's gonna be more of a horizontal press. But this is a great exercise right here for people who lack shoulder flexion. They don't have much. Do a staggered stance. I'm gonna press right here. I'm gonna get a reach on both sides. I'm gonna exhale. Feel my obliques. And I'm gonna alternate. So if you lack shoulder flexion, it's a good place to start. Then as you start getting better, you could go into more of like a tall kneeling position. So this requires a little bit more shoulder flexion. You could even have a half kneeling position, right? Now once you start getting more shoulder flexion from the 2 lifts I was talking about, and you start working up the ladder with the landmine, now you can start having what's called the how, which is heels on wall. I like to call it the feet on wall. And this puts you in a better position to be more stacked, like I'm talking about. You're gonna be less extended because the heels are on the wall. Me personally, I'll take like a 5-pound plate, put it under here, to help you stay more tucked. And we're gonna get into this one right here. So you can start off with some dumbbells, alternating. Got this from Connor Harris, coach. Put my feet on the wall like this. So notice, real quick, I have short femurs. So, and I'm a decently tall person, but I don't have the tallest femurs. So for me, my heels are barely even touching the ground, right? And I'm wearing shoes too. So let's say if I was barefoot and I lean back a bit, my feet would just be fighting to touch the ground. So I would have to compensate by either getting on my tippy toes or arching more, right? That's why when you see me do my benching or my seated presses, I'll usually do them with like a cinder block under, because this will give me more of what I don't have. It'll put me in a more stacked position, right? So notice how I'm more extended here than I am here, right? You can start off with some alternating, so you don't have to extend both sides. Your back won't be extended as you press with both sides at the same time, so it gives you that landmine press effect. And also the dumbbells are here, so this will recruit your abs, like so. So you understand? So this doesn't take a large amount of shoulder flexion to be able to do. It takes a good amount, but nothing like that you can't get either. So once you start getting better at the alternating Arnold press, then you could start doing some basic bilateral Arnold presses. Supposed to starting here, start here, this will crunch you up a bit and get you a bit more out of that extension. And the cool thing about the Arnold press is that the bar isn't here, so it's not gonna hit my chin, so I have to lean back. Starts right here, feel my abs. And then from here, I'm gonna press into a neutral grip like this. As far as the head, you could keep it here if you want. It's not the end of the world. I'll keep mine a few inches off. Okay. And then eventually you could reach the point where you don't need the dumbbells, or using the dumbbells as another tool, but you could also have the barbell. So if you just get back a little bit, come right here. Boom. Feet against the wall, pause, press. Pause. So I'm in a decently stacked position here. And the reason why is because I'm working on the shoulder flexion and the feet are against the wall. Now, if you don't want to if you're tired of doing this after a while, then you could just put some cinder blocks on the ground. Or if you're very tall, maybe you're like 6'4", you probably don't need cinder blocks. Just the fact that your feet are on the ground, your knees will already be above your hips. and you'll most likely be in a better stack position. So that pretty much sums it up. Those are some of the tools you can start implementing to improve your shoulder flexion. Those are some regressions you can start using if you don't have the best shoulder flexion. And then you can start incorporating the how, which is the heels on wall, or also known as the foul, feet on wall. Drive the heels down, feel the hamstrings, get the abs firing, get a better tuck, so on and so forth. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. How is your shoulder flexion doing? How is your overhead work doing? And how does your lower back feel? How do your shoulders feel? So on and so forth. And see you guys next time.